Part 65. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 641. When Crow and Zhang Dongzhi walked into the private doctor's office together, they found that it was unusually lively inside. As soon as they opened the door, they saw a cool black girl holding a beer passing by them. Crow could still feel her softness and couldn't help but take a second look. The black girl was very open and put her index finger into her mouth and licked it, which made Crow very excited. Zhang Dongzhi rolled his eyes. Such a black girl, you can do it? Crow smiled. Sure, you haven't experienced it. Black girls' skin is much smoother than white people, and they don't need lubricants. Zhang Dongzhi looked at Crow speechlessly. I doubt if you can hold back after abstaining from sex for half a year. After saying that, he shook his head and walked towards the bar. He came here purely to accompany Crow. He had no interest in women other than the little lawyer. Crow glanced at Zhang Dongzhi and muttered, "You don't know what's good. It's a pity for your size." The two came to the bar, ordered a beer each, and kept looking at the nightclub. The nightclub is very large. According to its scale, it should be the largest nightclub in Chicago. It stands to reason that such a large nightclub must have a lot of troubles because there are many people and many conflicts, but the strange thing is that young people play and make noise, but no one makes trouble here. Even those who sell contraband have fixed locations, and different contraband has different small compartments. Crow saw many people coming in and out. Tisk tisk. This place is quite formal, and no one makes trouble. Even those who sell contraband are well behaved and don't interfere with each other. Crow said in amazement. Zhang Dongzhi didn't say anything, but nodded. In general nightclubs, contraband is dominated by one company, and it is impossible for others to get involved. I didn't expect it to be so harmonious here. Hey, you just came to Chicago, right? The bartender wiped the cup in his hand and looked at them with a smile. Oh? Why do you ask that? Zhang Dongzhi looked up at him and asked curiously. He, everyone in Chicago knows that you can't make trouble in this bar. This is the territory of the Flynn family. The bartender also sat down and said in a low voice. When the Flynn family was mentioned, Zhang Dongzhi and Crow looked at each other and frowned at the same time. The Flynn family is so awesome, Crow was a little unconvinced. You have to know that the gangsters in the United States are different from those in other countries. As long as they have a gun in their hands, they are the boss of the sky and he is the second. They have to fight with everyone they meet until they realize that they really can't beat them. The bartender glanced at Crow and nodded, that's how awesome it is. Then he pointed to the two people sitting in the corner in the distance. See, that's the heir of the Flynn family. They are here to collect fees today. Crow looked along his finger and saw the white boy he just met. The boy was holding a brown paper bag in his hand. The paper bag was bulging, and it seemed that there was a lot of cash in it. You little jerk who collects protection fees, Crow sneered. The new world has long passed the stage of collecting protection fees. Crow now looks down on the mafia families that collect protection fees. Hey, keep your voice down. I don't want to die, the bartender hurriedly whispered. Zhang Dongzhi looked at the bartender's cautious expression and chuckled, why? The Flynn family is so domineering. The bartender looked around and muttered, domineering? More than that, even though they knew they did some things, Faberla turned a blind eye. More arrogant than us, Crow heard this and cursed. The bartender was busy for a while, and then continued to sit down and chat with the two. This is the crime city of Chicago, and the forces are even more diverse, but the most powerful forces are the 4 factions, 3 families, and 2 hotels. Oh, tell me, Crow and Zhang Dongzhi immediately came to the spirit. The 4 factions refer to the East City faction, the underground ghosts, the big hairy people, and the Black Alliance entrenched in the Old City. The 3 families refer to the Flynn family, the Dukan family, and the Wade family. The two hotels refer to the New World Hotel and the Continental Hotel. The bartender counted on his fingers and listed them one by one. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow looked at each other. They didn't expect that Chicago was more chaotic than Gotham. Now the biggest forces in Gotham are the New World, the American Mafia, and the Kimura family. Others like the Big Harry Gang and the Seven Stars Gang have long been broken up by the three families. Just now someone said that if you want to make it in Chicago, it's best not to offend the Flynn family. Crow touched his chin and remembered what the fat man said just now. The bartender nodded in agreement. Although the Flynn family is not the most powerful, it is definitely the most prestigious. Other forces should give them some face. Zhang Dongzhou frowned when he heard this. The New World Hotel also has to give them face. The bartender was interested when he heard the two of them, and rubbed his hands together. The meaning was self-evident. This was also one of his sources of income. Zhang Dongzhou took out a few $100s from his pocket and stuffed it into the bartender's hand. The bartender touched the money in his hand and explained with a smile, the New World Hotel and the Continental Hotel are two detached forces. As long as it does not involve their interests, they don't care about the lives of these gangs. After the bartender finished speaking, he got up and got busy again. Zhang Dongzhou drank his beer thoughtfully, while Crow turned his head and looked at the dance floor with his eyes rolling, looking for his target tonight. Bitch, bastard, a woman's curse sounded in the dance floor. Hey, girl, let's go out and have some fun, a man's vulgar voice came. Crow frowned. The bartender just said that this place is more orderly and ordinary people don't dare to make trouble here. He looked back at the bartender, who happened to look at him. That man is from the Flynn family. You know. The bartender shrugged, indicating that he was not wrong. Zhang Dongzhou also looked back and saw that it was the driver who had just shown a gun to them. And the driver was hugging the waist of the black girl selling alcohol, rubbing his lower body constantly, with a wretched look on his face. The people around him didn't dare to intervene, and they all looked like they were watching a show. Hey, you don't care, Crow reminded the bartender. The bartender glanced at them and said indifferently, those girls are not staff members of our bar, they just come here to sell alcohol. The boss has paid the protection fee, and the Flynn family will not attack us. Then you can attack others, Crow questioned. The bartender said that he was powerless and he was just a bartender. As he spoke, the black girl who sold alcohol had only 2 nipple stickers on her cool upper body, and she kept screaming. Damn, I can't stand it anymore. Crow stood up suddenly, and without waiting for Zhang Dongzhou to stop him, he walked towards the wretched man. This situation is introduced in Big Brother's quotes, which is just right for heroes to save the beauty. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 642. Stop. Let me go, Ba, let her go. Crow came to the man and kicked him. The driver was kicked to the ground without noticing. When he fell down, the bulging thing in his crotch hit the steps of the stage. Ouch. The sudden severe pain made the wretched man's eyes almost pop out, and even his cell phone fell out of his trouser pocket. Lang Lang Kinkin, you dare to rob a civilian girl, you humming think I don't exist. The crow was stuck in his waist, and he looked so righteous and awe-inspiring, which moved a group of young girls who were inexperienced in the world, and they all looked at him with admiration. However, most people looked at him with a bit of schadenfreude. They thought that this country bumpkin must not know that he had beaten someone from the Flynn family. The little black girl quickly picked up the torn Xiao Qingliang on the ground and hid behind the crow in fear. I want you to die. The wretched man stood up with all his strength, and after saying that, he was about to draw his gun. Hey, Carl Venus came over with a brown paper bag and stopped the wretched man. Are you sure you want to go against the Flynn family? Venus stood opposite the crow and looked at him seriously. Ha ha, you little bastard who collects protection money, Do you think the Flynn family can dominate Chicago? Crow raised his head, not caring about Venus' threat. At this time, Zhang Dongzhou had already arrived behind the crow. Venus's face changed slightly, but she still held it back. Then he smiled and said, "Welcome to Chicago." After saying that, he dragged the wretched man out of the nightclub. "Tui, when I came out to hang out, you were still wearing crotchless pants." Crow shrugged. He had seen such threats too many times. He was even afraid of this. "Don't go out to hang out in the future." When the little black girl saw that the man was gone, she breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you for saving me. But they are the Flynn family who do all kinds of evil, so you should leave as soon as possible." The little black girl knew that the man would not give up, so she persuaded him in a low voice. "It's okay, this kid was so scared that he didn't even pick up his phone." Crow smiled and picked up the phone that the wretched man had dropped. "Sister, are you free tonight? I'll pay for your beer tonight." Before he finished speaking, there was a loud noise outside the nightclub door. Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Yao changed their expressions at the same time and rushed towards the door. As soon as he opened the door, he saw his car burst into flames. The Lexus Rivanus just pointed its middle finger at the two of them. "Hillbillies, I told you, this is Chicago. Welcome to Sin City." After saying that, he sped away quickly. Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu looked at their scrapped cars with livid faces, and the anger in their hearts was burning like a raging fire. Over the years in the New World, they have always slapped others in the face. How could I have imagined that they would be slapped in the face this time? "Maid, let Hina peck her eyes." Although Crow smiled, the expression on his face became colder and colder. "Now, they're getting too big." Zhang Dongzhou was also laughed out of anger. She didn't expect that her car was burned down just because she came out to have fun. If the other brothers found out about this, they would both laugh out loud. Ding dong, the phone in Crow's hand vibrated, and he realized that he was still holding the wretched man's phone in his hand. Crow opened it and saw that it was a text message. 2 o'clock in the morning, the transaction location is number 42 Avenue, Miwa District, 3-story underground parking lot. He handed the phone to Zhang Dongzhou, and Zhang Dongzhou glanced at it. The two looked at each other and smiled. It seemed that they had the same idea. "Yes, I'm sorry, it's all because of me." The little black girl looked at the burned car, her lips turned white. Crow glanced at her and said, "The knot is thickened, and it's not because of you." Zhang Dongzhou looked at his watch. It was now 12 o'clock in the evening, and there was still time to prepare. "Call someone. Let them pick us up." Crow nodded, dialed Zhang Kong's phone directly, and turned on the speakerphone. "Brother Crow, are you good enough? You should be able to pick up corpses at this point, right?" Zhang Kong's excited voice came from the microphone. The crow was speechless for a while. "Stop picking up corpses, your car was burned." Zhang Kong's heart sank when he heard this, knowing that something had happened after all. He slapped himself hard. If he had known that Brother Crow was a troublemaker, he shouldn't have told him the location of the bar. What he fears most is that if his eldest brother Li Qing finds out, he will definitely scold him, and his brothers at the same level will also laugh at him. "Maid, what the hum is that?" "I hummed his grandma." A series of curse words came from the microphone, making Crow feel extremely embarrassed. After all, there is a little black girl next to him. He turned off the speakerphone directly and put the phone to his ear. "Ahem, Kong, there is still a chance to remedy the situation. Send someone over quickly and we will pick him up. When Big Brother wakes up tomorrow morning, not only will he not scold you, but he will also praise you for your ability." "Really? Who burned the car?" Zhang Kong also felt a little sad. The car he just bought cost nearly 1 million. It seems, a boy from the Flynn family. Zhang Kong was stunned when he heard the Flynn family, and then said, "I will take people there right away." "Mad, if you dare to burn the car, damn, I will burn his ancestral grave. The Flynn family is awesome, and all forces in Chicago are also afraid of the backers behind the Flynn family. Normally, if there is no conflict of interest, it's all good for you, me, and everyone. Now the Flynn family actually burned their own car, which is unbearable for uncle and aunt. Before the car arrived, Crow took off his coat and put it on the black girl who was showing her naked body. Girl, give me your number. After we're done, I'll talk to you about which beer tastes better. Crow rubbed his hands and asked the black girl to enter her phone number into his phone. The black girl didn't refuse and directly entered her number. Zhang Dongzhi rolled his eyes when he heard what Crow said. Are you talking about beer? Hee hee. A hee hee was extremely insulting. Crow was directly irritated and glared at him. Damn, aren't they all the same? Zhang Dongzhi looked constipated and kept complaining in his heart, what you said makes sense, I'm speechless. Not long after, swish swish swish, the convoy stopped directly beside Zhang Dongzhi and Crow. Brother Crow, Brother Xiu, get in the car. Zhang Kong opened the window in the first car and waved to Crow and Zhang Dongzhi. Looking at the long convoy, the little black girl was stunned. She finally believed why the Crows were not afraid of the Flynn family. Venus, you were so awesome just now. You actually burned their car, the wretched man said loudly with excitement. Hee hee, the new Veyron must be worth millions. Venus waved his hand, not caring at all about burning a luxury car worth millions of dollars. When the wretched man heard that it was worth millions, he was a little worried. It seems that the other side is not a good guy. Don't worry, no one in Chicago dares to not give face to our Flynn family. Venus patted the wretched man's shoulder and let him relax. Venus has seen people with some strength. These two must be outsiders. With the strength of the Flynn family, there is no need to be afraid of them. Let's go, it's almost time for trading, let's hurry over. Venus patted the black handbag at hand and smiled. The wretched man nodded, and the Lexus sped directly towards the Maywood area. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 643. Venus stared out the window absent-mindedly. This deal was very important to him because he had contacted this business secretly without his uncle's knowledge. The other party in the deal was the Old City Black Alliance, which was at odds with the Flynn family. This was also the first time he acted on his own. Although he was the heir, his uncle had always controlled all the businesses and never let him touch them. He was only responsible for collecting protection fees and managing entertainment projects. He didn't want to live under the protection of his uncle. He wanted to use this business to tell everyone in the Flynn family that he had the ability to inherit everything in the Flynn family. While he was distracted, the car quickly arrived at the destination. Venus, it seems we are here too early. The wretched man looked around and saw no one. Venus nodded in agreement. It's okay, wait a moment, they will definitely come. He had long known that the supply channel of the Old City Black Alliance had been swept by Faberla, and it was out of stock during this period. This deal was also very important to them. After waiting for about 10 minutes, an SUV drove over from the opposite side. The person who came was Jim, the eldest brother of the Gem brothers, one of the leaders of the Old City Black Alliance. Jim got out of the car directly, and his subordinates also got out one after another. Venus saw who was coming, smiled, and got out of the car with the bag and the wretched man. Venus, I didn't expect you to come in person. Jim laughed. When Venus contacted him, he was a little bit unconvinced. The Black Alliance and the Flynn family's territory are close to each other, and there are inevitable frictions at ordinary times. The Flynn family has always pursued the strategy of making friends with distant people and attacking nearby people, and has never been soft on them. Unexpectedly, the heir of the Flynn family actually came to him in person to cooperate. Hee, Jim, you have no rice to eat, but you are still so mean. Venus snorted coldly, and didn't spare Jim's mouth. Hee, stop talking nonsense, finish the transaction quickly and break up. Jim patted the black briefcase in his hand. Venus glanced at him coldly and nodded to the wretched man. The wretched man nodded in understanding and opened the briefcase. Inside were neatly stacked flour bricks, and the outer packaging was printed with the Flynn family's logo, a black lion head. Jim asked his men to bring the briefcase over. The wretched man opened the briefcase, and inside were circles of US dollars, which looked like there were millions. Venus, no problem. The wretched man took out a US dollar and touched it carefully. Of course, no problem. Everyone in Chicago knows that we in the Black Alliance do business with integrity. Jim sneered and said, it's your Flynn family, we have to check it carefully. A little brother from the Black Alliance came out, took out a dagger and pierced the package, dipped a little with his finger, put it in his mouth to taste it, and immediately spit it out, nodding at Jim. Jim was relieved. Venus, happy cooperation, more exchanges in the future. It must be admitted that this batch of goods solved the urgent needs of the Black Alliance. At least there is no need to worry about the supply problem in the past week. A new source of goods will naturally be found in a week. Well, happy cooperation. Remember never to say that this batch of goods came from me. Venus pointed to the handbag. Don't worry, our cooperation is still long. I won't destroy the Great Wall. Jim shrugged. The two waved to each other and planned to say goodbye. The brake sounds of multiple cars coming from the underground parking lot attracted the attention of both parties. Neither of them was a novice, so they could naturally hear that there were many people coming. Damn, Venus, you want to cheat on the thieves. Jim took out the pistol from his waist without saying a word. Venus's face changed. He originally thought that Jim was cheating on the thieves, but seeing Jim's appearance, he didn't look like a fake. No, calm down, it's not me, Venus explained hurriedly. After that, he quickly took out the pistol from the gun bag and nervously pointed at the dark exit. The atmosphere solidified at this moment. A group of people were so nervous that they could hear their own heartbeats, and their hands unconsciously clenched the pistols. Puff puff. Before they could fire, the sound of bullets passing through the silencer came from the direction of the exit. Jim and Venus quickly hid behind the car, and the others also looked for cover. Some of those who ran slowly were shot dead on the spot. Jim looked at the bullet holes that kept popping up on the car, and said bitterly, Venus, I'm so cold. Who did you offend? They actually sent troops to kill you. At this time, Venus saw that the equipment on the opposite side was comparable to that of the American soldiers, and his face was also pale. How did you know that you were looking for me? Maybe you moved the cheese of some big guy. Jim became even more angry when he heard it. You, stay away from me, the bullets are all flying towards you, am I blind? Venus was stunned and realized this problem, as if the other party was indeed targeted. He frowned. It seems that he has not made enemies with anyone recently. Why does the other party look like he will not stop until he kills him? Suddenly he thought of the car burning at night. No way. He really didn't know those two people. Could they be strangers from somewhere? Jim didn't have time to care about him. He rolled over and rolled directly to the pillar. He finally realized that this matter had nothing to do with him. He was implicated by the damned Venus. Venus, everyone is responsible for their own actions. You hurry out and die, don't implicate everyone. Jim shouted loudly. Venus's face was ashen, deep well eyes. Only a fool would go out in this situation. Jim saw that Venus was unmoved, and he glanced at the exit anxiously. This glance was not a big deal. He really recognized an acquaintance. Mr. Zhang, don't shoot, it's me. Zhang Kong was holding a cigarette, talking with Crow and Zhang Dongzhou leaning against the car door, and found someone calling him from the bursts of gunfire. "Did you meet an acquaintance?" Crow looked at John Kong with a smile. John Kong was stunned, and the voice was indeed a little familiar. "Mr. Zhang, it's me, Jim. I stayed in the hotel for more than half a month last time." Jim shouted loudly. In his heart, he cursed Venus. This damn Venus actually offended the New World. A customer of the hotel, but he is no longer staying in the hotel. "Keep fighting," John Kong waved his hand carelessly. Jim didn't expect that after he revealed his identity, the opponent's firepower would be even stronger. Jim had no choice but to vent his anger on Venus. "Damn Venus, how did you get into trouble with New World?" Jim knew that New World usually did not participate in gang fights, and now he was personally involved. It must be that Venus had offended them. When Venus heard Jim's scolding, he realized that the two people at night were most likely from New World. He pursed his lips tightly and said nothing. He couldn't tell Jim that he burned New World's car. As the New World members advanced, Jim's brothers fell to the ground one by one. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 644. Damn it, Venus, if you don't say anything, I'll kill you. Jim looked at his little brother who fell to the ground with a look of pain on his face. He felt extremely aggrieved by such an unreasonable disaster. Venus pursed her lips. "I burned their car." When Jim heard what Venus said, he was speechless. It seemed that the heir to the Flynn family was used to being arrogant in Chicago. Jim gave a thumbs up. "You are awesome, you dare to do things that even your uncle dare not do." Venus didn't speak. It was too late to say anything now. Everyone knew not to provoke the New World easily. "Now we are grasshoppers on a rope, you come over and we rush out," Jim waved to Venus. Venus nodded. He had no choice but to give it a try now. Running with two people has a higher success rate than running alone. Venus jumped up to the square cement pillar where Jim was hiding. "Let's go." Jim smiled calmly and said, "Let's go, where are we going?" After saying that, he pointed the gun in his hand at Venus. "This matter is none of my business. Why should I run away? I just need to hand you over." Venus stared at Jim angrily. "Are you sure you want to do this? My uncle won't let you go if he finds out." "Haha, it was the New World that killed you. What does it have to do with me? Besides, your uncle may not be able to offend the New World." Jim snorted softly. This matter had nothing to do with him in the first place. He was just implicated by Venus. If he caught Venus and handed it over to the New World, they would not embarrass him. "Mr. Zhang, don't shoot, I caught Venus," Jim shouted loudly. John Kong asked the boys not to shoot. "Well, come out." Jim put his pistol to the back of Venus's head, pushed him, and the two of them walked out from behind the concrete pillar at the same time. "The burning of the car has nothing to do with me. I was just implicated by him," Jim explained in a low voice. "Maid, I just bought the Veyron. I didn't even drive it a few times, but you bastard, burned it to me." John Kong was so angry that he kicked Venus in the abdomen, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. Venus endured the pain and remained silent without saying a word. Crow came to Venus and knelt down to look at him. "You are making it impossible for me to survive in Chicago? No one in Gotham dares to say this. You are so awesome. Humph, others are afraid of your New World, but we are not. The Flynn family is not easy to mess with." Venus stared at the crow fiercely. "Hiss, you are really a cooked duck and your mouth is still tough." Crow waved at Jim. "Hey, you nigger, give me the gun." Jim pointed to himself. "Me? Besides you, are there any other niggas?" Crow gave him a funny look, and several other black people were shot to death. Jim didn't dare to refuse and handed the pistol directly to Crow. The crow shook the gun in his hand, and Venus was really a little scared this time. He found that the other person was really planning to kill him. "Don't, I'll compensate." Bang! The crow didn't give him a chance to finish his words, and directly shot Venus's head off. The crow's operation simply shocked Jim. He didn't expect that the man in front of him would actually shoot and kill Venus. Crow stood up, wiped the fingerprints on the gun with his coat, and threw it to Jim. "You killed the man, it has nothing to do with me." Jim took the pistol in a hurry, with a very ugly look on his face. This shameless man actually killed the only heir of the Flynn family with his own pistol. "Brother Kong, there's still a bunch of money here." A younger brother found the cash used for the transaction. John Kong took a look at it and said, "Well, it's just used to compensate for my car." Jim watched helplessly as the cash he brought was taken away by a group of shameless people, but he did not dare to say anything now. He believed that as long as he dared to say one more word, his life would not be saved. "Brother, if I were you, I would quickly call for people to raid the Flynn family. If they find out that the heir died while making a deal with you, you will be dead." John Kong patted Jim on the shoulder and helped him come up with bad ideas. Jim showed a smile that was uglier than crying. "Mr. John, if you don't participate in gang wars and don't know the backstage of the Flynn family, we can't handle it." John Kong asked with great interest, "Oh? Your Black Alliance has the most weapons and the most people, but you can't defeat the Flynn family." "Former Vice President Carter's last name is Flynn," Jim said helplessly. Wu Wu and Zhang Dongzhou looked at each other, both of their eyes filled with shock. Then he looked at the body of Venus on the ground at the same time, and felt a sudden realization. Could he be? Crow pointed at Venus on the ground. Jim nodded. "Because he has this unexplainable identity, the Chicago gangsters will give face to the Flynn family." Shiuer, did I kill my cheap brother-in-law?" Crow was completely stunned. Who could have thought of such a coincidence? Zhang Dongzhou nodded happily. "It seems so. Don't expect Carter to accept you now. You KO his illegitimate son." Crow scratched his head. "It's really hummed. Shiuer, what should I do?" After killing the illegitimate son of his future father-in-law, he had no hope of ever reconciling with Carter. Zhang Dongzhou spread his hands and said, "What should I do? Cold, if you don't kill him, Carter won't accept you either." As a bystander, Zhang Dongzhou could see things more clearly than Wu Wu. Carter never thought of accepting Wu Wu as a crappy son-in-law. Killing or not killing him made no difference to him. Zhang Dongzhou came to Jim and said, "Your name is Jim?" Yes, my name is Jim." Jim could also see that Zhang Dongzhou was a person with status in the New World. Even the manager of the New World Hotel in Chicago calls him brother, so he must have a high status internally. "Do you want to annex the Flynn family?" Zhang Dongzhou asked in a low voice. Jim's eyes lit up. The entire Chicago Flynn family had been controlling the flower business, and no one wanted to swallow it up. "I think so, but Carter." Jim has some doubts. If he sends troops at this time, even if he takes down the Flynn family, he will be liquidated in the end and will be used as a wedding dress for others in vain. "Don't worry, a former vice president can't cover up Chicago's sky," Zhang Dongzhou said with a smile. It was Carter who made his eldest brother Li Qing unhappy a few days ago, so this time he took the opportunity to collect some interest. "Do you really want to give up everything here and leave your hometown?" When Jim heard Zhang Dongzhou's words, he gritted his teeth and remembered the power he and his brother had worked so hard to establish in the Sin City. As the overlord of one party, he also had a ruthless attitude. "Okay, since it is no longer possible to mediate, this is what we have to do." Even if he said he didn't kill Venus, the Flynn family would pin the blame on him in order to give Carter an explanation. It would be better to do nothing and take out the Flynn family directly. By the time Carter comes to his senses, it will already be a foregone conclusion. Zhang Dongzhou smiled and looked at Jim, who was lame after being fooled by him. "Okay, you have the courage. The door of our New World Hotel will be open for you." Watching Jim leave in a hurry, Crow came to Zhang Dongzhou and asked, "Do we really want to help him?" "When did I say I would help him?" Zhang Dongzhou smiled like a thief. "Didn't you mean?" "Yes, the doors of the New World Hotel are open to anyone. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 645. Damn, Xiu'er, you are too shameless. Yes, this is in the style of your father. Crow gave Zhang Dongzhou a thumbs up. Zhang Dongzhou rolled his eyes. "Get lost, you should think about how to explain it to your brother." Now Zhang Dongzhou can imagine the expression of his elder brother Li Qing when he wakes up and knows about this. Crow's face immediately turned bitter when he heard this. He thought it was just to deal with a small gangster, and it would be fine even if the Flynn family was flattened. Who knew that Venus was Carter's illegitimate son? "Godfather, we did this together, I can't just take it on myself." Crow pulled Zhang Dongzhou's arm with a pleading face. Zhang Dongzhou's face was dark. "Damn, you are very flexible in changing roles." A few hours later, Li Qing had just finished washing and asked someone to bring breakfast up, and saw Crow walking in with a look of having done something wrong. Zhang Dongzhou followed behind with gloating. Li Qing knew without even looking that Crow must have caused trouble again, and looked at him with amusement. "Tell me, what's going on?" "Brother, you know me well. You know I'm in trouble even before I say anything," Crow flattered him with a chuckle. Li Qing ate soybean milk and fried dough sticks without raising his head. "Well, forget it." Crow quickly said, "Brother, Zhang Dongzhou insisted on dragging me to a nightclub yesterday, and there was a conflict in the nightclub. The man burned our car, and I killed him." Zhang Dongzhou, who was standing aside, almost popped his eyes out when he heard Crow's shameless remarks. What a guy, he pushed the matter away completely. Li Qing didn't say anything and continued to eat breakfast. If it was just this little thing, Crow wouldn't have this expression. Let alone killing a person, even if he flattened a gang, Crow wouldn't have to be so cautious. Seeing that his boss didn't say anything, Crow swallowed his saliva. "It's this person who was killed, his identity is a bit special." Li Qing raised his head and looked at him with amusement. "What identity makes our brother Crow so nervous?" Crow glanced at Zhang Dongzhou, and seeing that Zhang Dongzhou was indifferent, he gritted his teeth and closed his eyes and said, "My brother-in-law." Ahem. Li Qing almost choked on the soy milk in his mouth. "What?" Zhang Dongzhou hurried forward to help Li Qing pat his back. "Damn, speak properly." Crow was a little embarrassed. "Actually, he is not my brother-in-law. He has no blood relationship with Isabella. He is just Carter's illegitimate son." Li Qing looked at him strangely, wondering how this matter was related to Carter again. Zhang Dongzhou couldn't stand Crow's ability to organize language, and said directly, "Brother, it's like this. Yesterday Crow took me to a nightclub, saying that it was crazy before abstinence." Zhang Dongzhou narrated everything that happened yesterday. Li Qing finally understood the whole story. This matter, what a coincidence. Li Qing glanced at Crow, and felt that Crow was also unlucky, actually shot Carter's illegitimate son. This time it was all over. Carter didn't agree with his relationship with Isabella in the first place, and now it was even more impossible. He was not worried about this, but he was worried that the old Chinese doctor had asked Crow to abstain from sex, but he didn't expect Crow to go crazy. It seems that it's time to scare him and make him remember it. Li Qing didn't speak, Crow and Zhang Dongzhou didn't dare to speak, and the room fell into a dead silence. Crow looked at his elder brother Li Qing's face and felt a little uneasy. After all, no matter how many troubles he had caused in the past, his elder brother had never been angry. This time he was cold-faced, and he was a little uncomfortable. "Brother, I was wrong, I shouldn't," Crow said cautiously. Li Qing stared at him, still silent. Zhang Dongzhou also felt that the atmosphere was not right. He rubbed his hands and tried to plead for Wu Ya. Brother, Wu Ya can't be blamed for this. I am also responsible. Humph. Li Qing snorted coldly, which made Wu Ya and Zhang Dongzhou feel nervous. What did Wang Quan say? He told you to abstain from sex for half a year. Didn't you humming hear it? From now on, if you touch a woman again within half a year, I'll chop her off. The elder brother's words made Wu Ya feel cold in his crotch and cried, I dare not, elder brother. I will listen to the old Chinese doctor and never touch a woman. No, I won't touch a female. Seeing that the elder brother Li Qing's expression eased, Wu Ya was relieved and secretly determined not to touch a woman within half a year. Well, I hope you can do what you say. Dongzhou is a good supervisor. If he can't control the meat below, just cut it off and feed it to the dog. Li Qing said seriously. Zhang Dongzhou smiled, okay, big brother. I will keep a close eye on him and won't let him shoot down the plane. Crow's face changed. He originally wanted to avoid touching women and use his fifth daughter who had not been out for many years. He didn't expect Zhang Dongzhou to block his way. Alas! Carter's illegitimate child, Li Qing whispered. Dongzhou, how is the information from Isabella's mother that I asked you to check? Li Qing suddenly remembered this. Zhang Dongzhou was stunned, no news from there yet, I'll go ask later. Crow's eyes turned, big brother, do you suspect it has something to do with Isabella's mother? Li Qing frowned and nodded, last time I felt that Carter's attitude was a bit strange, and now there is an illegitimate child who came out of nowhere. There must be something we don't know. Crow and Zhang Dongzhou nodded at the same time. They had never thought about this before, but after their eldest brother pointed it out, they also felt something strange. I'll go and urge them right away. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow looked at each other and walked out without even eating breakfast. What? Attack the Flynn family? Brother, do you have a fever? Jim's younger brother Blue touched Jim's forehead. Blue, Venus died at the place where he traded with me. Jim looked at his brother seriously. But, wasn't that done by the New World? It has nothing to do with us. Blue spread his hands. But it was my gun, I can't deny it. Jim shook his head. The ruthlessness of the New World would not let him refute. He knew there were only two ways at the time, one was death, and the other was to raid the Flynn family according to the New World's idea. And we are not without any chance of winning. This time, New World is obviously in conflict with the Flynn family. The Flynn family can only get to where they are now with Carter behind them. Without Carter, they would be a second-rate gangster family. It is impossible for them to directly occupy such a big piece of fat. Jim clenched his fists. The Flynn family's monopoly on the flower business really made all the Chicago gangs jealous. Blue frowned, what I'm afraid of is Carter's crazy revenge in the future. You know, he can invite Faberla. Jim seemed to have a countermeasure long ago. Blue, in fact, this matter is easy to solve. We will live in the New World Hotel directly. When the time comes, Carter will turn against New World if he wants to deal with us. New World doesn't want to have its reputation smashed by others. When the time comes, Carter will naturally be blocked by New World, and we can just remotely control it in the hotel. As long as the money is in our hands, no one can take our territory away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 646. Bruce nodded. This was the only way now. He couldn't just watch his elder brother die. Jim didn't give Bruce a chance to speak. He arranged directly, Bruce, go and collect all the funds you can take away. I will take people to raid the Flynn family. After that, he patted Bruce on the shoulder, walked out and began to gather people. On the Flynn family side, there was no movement. They all knew that Venus had the habit of not going home before dawn. "Is Venus not back yet?" Old Flynn asked the butler. "Not yet." Old Flynn nodded. He didn't know why he was a little uneasy tonight. He had no way to deal with this nephew. Venus always thought that he didn't give the business to him. He didn't know that it was his brother Carter who didn't want Venus to get involved in this kind of thing. "Boss, Venus had a conflict with someone at the door of the nightclub today," the bald fat man said. This was the person who persuaded Crow in the nightclub before. "Well, it doesn't matter. I'm worried if he doesn't get into trouble one day." Old Flynn smiled and shook his head. Getting into trouble is inherited from their family. Although Carter is a former vice president, he was also a street gangster when he was young. That is, he relied on the money of the car king to make a fortune. Well, those two people. The bald man shook his head. He intuitively knew that the two were not ordinary people. Just looking at their eyes and the weapons in the trunk of the car, he knew that the two were not easy to deal with. "Why? Are there still people in Chicago who dare to provoke us?" Old Flynn smiled indifferently. Over the years, with Carter's support behind the scenes, the entire Sin City gang had to give face to the Flynn family. He thought that there were few things in Chicago that he couldn't cover up. The bald man kept silent when he saw the boss say this. "Pay more attention to the Black Alliance these days. If their channels are copied, it is hard to guarantee that they will not come to our territory to make trouble." Old Flynn ordered. "Okay. The channel of the Black Alliance. Well, I ask someone to do it. The Black Alliance has grown stronger in the past 2 years, and it is adjacent to us. There are some things I have to guard against." This time, the Faberla operation was completely aimed at the Black Alliance. His brother just made a phone call and cut off their financial resources. Sieding smiled when he heard it. Now they will be seriously injured. Without the goods, the Gem brothers will not be able to hold on for long. At that time, we can take over their territory legitimately. Old Flynn smiled and nodded. Sometimes it is better to win without fighting. Without money, who will follow the Gem brothers to work hard? The Flynn family is very envious of the territory occupied by the Black Alliance. Although the consumption level is poor, there are many drug addicts. "It's getting late, you should go to rest too." Old Flynn waved his hand to let Sieding leave. He went back to the room to rest. I don't know how long it took, probably in the dark moment before dawn, fierce gunshots rang out in the Flynn family's manor. Old Flynn woke up from his sleep, reached out to touch the glasses on the bedside table and put them on, and took out a pistol from the cabinet. Sieding rushed in hurriedly. "Boss, the Gem brothers are crazy, a large number of Black Alliance members are attacking the manor, we can't hold on any longer." At a time when people were extremely distressed, most of the members of the Flynn family were not in the manor, but were scattered in various districts of Chicago. The large-scale invasion of the Black Alliance caught the Flynn family off guard. Old Flynn stood up. "Why are you panicking? Have you called anyone?" Sieding nodded. He sent out a distress signal at the first time. "I believe that the Flynn family members will come to rescue after receiving the notification soon." "Where is the Black Alliance now?" Although he was also surprised by the sudden attack of the Black Alliance, his years of experience made Old Flynn calm down quickly. "It should not have hit the inner wall yet," Sieding said immediately. "If it hit the inner wall, the gunshot would not be so small." Old Flynn nodded. "Come on, let's go out and take a look." The bald man wanted to say something, but was stopped by Old Flynn. As soon as Old Flynn went out, he heard the sound of gunfire outside the yard. Many members of the Flynn family began to defend the enemy with favorable terrain. Although there were many people in the Black Alliance, they really couldn't get in for a while. "Boss, the other side is attacking us like crazy. We can't hold out for long with our current ammunition." Someone came to Old Flynn and said hurriedly. "Is Venus back?" Old Flynn didn't care about the casualties on his side, but was concerned about the safety of his nephew first. Master Venus hasn't come back. Old Flynn breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that he didn't come back, it's good that he didn't come back. Give me the phone, I want to call Brother Jim. Huh, the subordinate looked at Old Flynn in confusion. At this time, is there any need to call? Delay time. Our reinforcements are coming, Old Flynn explained with a smile. Judging from the current situation, as long as the Black Alliance cannot break in for a while, the Gem brothers will be attacked from both sides. After the call was connected, Jim's voice came from the other side. Old Flynn still has time to call me now, are you asking for mercy? Old Flynn narrowed his eyes. Jim, we have always kept to ourselves, but I didn't expect you to raid our Flynn family. Believe it or not, I will make sure that you will not leave a single corpse behind. Jim smiled on the other side, not caring about Flynn's threat at all. He, Flynn, you don't need to threaten me, everyone knows the reason, it's nothing more than a life and death struggle. But what I want to tell you is that even in Chicago there are people you can't afford to offend. Isn't it strange that Venus hasn't come back yet? Jim asked jokingly. Flynn's heart stomped, thinking that things were not as simple as he imagined. He said gloomily, where did you take Venus? Your good nephew is braver than you, he burned New World's car last night. I really didn't expect that he would be so bold. Flynn took a breath when he heard Jim's words. New World's power in Chicago is only the New World Hotel, which is a neutral organization that is detached from the world. He didn't expect his nephew to be so fierce that he even dared to provoke New World. Really? Why else do you think I dared to raid your Flynn family? Jim was not stupid either. He used the New World's tiger skin to make Old Flynn, the old fox, lose his composure. Old Flynn hung up the phone directly. There was no need to delay time now. Venus burned someone's car in front of the nightclub yesterday, Old Flynn asked his butler. The bald butler was stunned. Well, two outsiders. They had a conflict with Venus because of parking. Asshole, why didn't you tell me about this? Old Flynn slapped the bald man in the face, causing him to stagger and fall to the ground. Old Flynn no longer cared about anything else and directly called his brother Carter. He guessed that Venus was in danger. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 647. Is this true? Li Qing frowned as he looked at the latest news from Gaojin. The data said that the Detroit automobile tycoon, Isabella's grandfather, had a will, and his property was inherited by Isabella and his descendants, and the second heir was Isabella's mother. Crow nodded. Well, Isabella was raised by her grandfather and grandmother since she was a child. Her grandfather only had one daughter, so he listed Isabella as the first heir. Li Qing nodded, and the situation was finally clear. Carter must be after the inheritance. Otherwise, he would not let Isabella marry a gay. When he learned that Isabella and Crow were preparing for pregnancy, he hurried to find the door. Carter's calculations are really good. He actually started planning many years ago. Li Qing shook his head. It is said that even a tiger will not eat its own cubs. It seems that this sentence has no meaning to some black-hearted politicians. Carter probably wants to get the inheritance to his illegitimate son. Li Qing glanced at Crow. How vicious! Crow gnashed his teeth and cursed. Li Qing laughed. He didn't expect Crow to be so lucky that he actually caught a rich girl. You are so lucky. You found your true love for the first time, Zhang Dongzhou teased. Crow scratched his head and smiled innocently, following Big Brother, is there still a time when you are unlucky? Zhang Dongzhou nodded in agreement. Since following Big Brother Li Qing, these younger brothers have money and people. They have reached the peak of life. They would not change even if they were given a president. Okay, stop flattering. Li Qing looked at Crow teasingly, Now there is only one question: what is your cheap mother-in-law's attitude towards you? Isabella's mother has not appeared, and no one is sure of her attitude. After all, she is the second heir. To put it bluntly, if Isabella gets into trouble, the inheritance will belong to her mother. Li Qing couldn't guess the role her mother played in it. Did her mother know what Isabella had experienced? It's okay if she didn't know. What she was afraid of was that her mother acquiesced to Carter's behavior. Crow obviously thought of this, and his face began to become serious. Big brother, and, no way, after all, she is Isabella's mother, she shouldn't. He, Carter is Isabella's biological father, isn't he pushing his own daughter into the fire pit? Zhang Dongzhou smiled and shook his head. He didn't expect that one day Crow would also be involved in a dispute over the inheritance of a wealthy man. Looking at Crow's increasingly ugly face, Li Qing smiled and comforted, the only good news now is that you killed Carter's illegitimate son. No one thought that Crow would kill Carter's illegitimate son by accident, which had to be said to be a stroke of genius. I just don't know if Carter has only this one illegitimate son, Li Qing continued. Crow looked at his elder brother with a face full of resentment. Brother, can you finish speaking in one breath? It's really uncomfortable to be so up and down like this. This matter is easy to handle, and it's also difficult to handle. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow both looked attentively. Easy to handle, just kill Carter and put an end to it. Even if Isabella's mother wants to do something, it's useless. The difficult thing is that Carter's identity is too eye-catching, and we can't kill Carter openly. Li Qing gave Crow a detailed analysis, and, you have to consider Isabella's attitude, after all, they are her biological parents. He shook his head. This matter was what really made Crow uncomfortable. Crow also looked embarrassed. Brother, what should I do? You discuss this matter with Isabella. It's hard for a judge to judge family affairs. To be honest, he couldn't help Crow make a decision on this matter. Seeing Crow in deep thought, Li Qing did not interrupt him and asked Zhang Kong directly, how is the Black Alliance going? There should be news now, right? Brother, that group of people is really hopeless. They were beaten up by the Flynn family. Look, the two brothers just checked into our hotel. Zhang Kong showed a disgusted expression. He never thought that the Black Alliance could not beat the Flynn family despite the superiority in numbers and weapons. It was simply unbelievable. Li Qing was speechless. These people were really not up to the standard. Flynn family. It seems that we have to do it ourselves this time, Li Qing ordered. Crow killed Venus, and Carter would definitely not give up. Li Qing did not want to wait here. He just wanted to tie up the Flynn family. By the way, it would also shock other gangster families in the city of Sin. Okay, big brother. We are all ready. Zhang Kong's eyes flashed with excitement. Since he became the manager of the New World Hotel in Chicago, he has not participated in such an action for a long time, and his hands are itching. After defeating the Black League, Old Flynn breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was a loose organization like the Black League. As long as a few people were killed, their courage would be deflated. He didn't dare to delay and directly picked up the phone to call his brother Carter. After the call was connected, Old Flynn didn't wait for Carter to speak, and said directly, Carter, Venus is missing. What? How did you do it? Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on him? Carter sat up from the bed in shock and asked loudly. My son has been raised in Chicago since he was a child, and his safety is guaranteed. Now his brother actually informed him that his son is missing. Carter quickly adjusted his mood. What happened? Tell me from beginning to end. Old Flynn quickly told Carter everything he knew. You mean, Venus burned the car of New World? Carter frowned. He just parted ways with Li Qing unhappily, and he didn't expect that this matter would involve New World again. He had to wonder if there was something fishy about it. Do you think it's a conspiracy of New World, Carter expressed his doubts. Old Flynn shook his head gently. Carter, according to my housekeeper, this incident was accidental. It was because of a conflict over parking. I think it is very likely a coincidence. He also thought at first that it was a New World member who deliberately made trouble, but this idea was rejected by him. The other party had no chance of knowing Venus' identity. The most important thing now is to find the whereabouts of Venus. Old Flynn was also scratching his head. The Gem brothers have entered the New World Hotel for refuge. It seems that only they know where Venus is. But he didn't dare to go directly to the door. Everyone knew the rules of the New World Hotel. Carter pondered for a moment. I'll go to Chicago right away, and when I get there, we'll find a way. Old Flynn nodded. This was the only way for now. As long as Carter arrived, he could use official power or go directly to the door. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 648. Chicago, Maywood District. Some gangsters stood in the streets in twos and threes. They were all surprised by the Negro League's attack on the Flynn family yesterday. The Gem brothers are really smart. They actually raided the Flynn family last night. Who says it isn't? I heard that many people in the Flynn family died. Haha, we didn't lose in the end. I just saw people from the Flynn family taking over the territory of the Negro Leagues. I heard that the Jewel brothers escaped into the New World Hotel. Alas, it was too reckless. Sigh, do you think the New World can save them? Are you kidding? Who dares to provoke New World Hotel? Behind the hotel is the entire New World group. But, there are people behind the Flynn family. While several people were arguing on the street, Ford commercial vehicles drove directly in front of them. This surprised them. It was their first time to see such a long convoy. Holy shit, did you see that? The badge on the car is the badge of the New World Hotel. Tisk tisk, if you have money, are these cars worth a lot of money? What? Is this car valuable? The car is not valuable, but the modification is valuable. The sound of the engine means it has been modified. You can see that the tires are the famous Goodyear tires, the body has also been thickened, and the thickness of the glass looks like bulletproof glass. A knowledgeable gangster pointed out the car is full of treasures. How much is this worth? Hee, at least this number. The young man with yellow hair stretched out his index finger. Tisk tisk, 1 million, awesome. While the gangsters were pointing at the business convoy, the convoy was heading directly towards the headquarters of the Flynn family. The people sitting in the car were the members of the New World. They were wearing sophisticated individual equipment and sitting in rows in the car. In the first car was John Kong, the manager of the New World Hotel in Chicago. Let me tell you, this is the first time our Chicago branch has shown its face in front of Big Brother. Don't let me off the hook. John Kong repeatedly gave instructions to the key members. He demanded that the Flynn family must be annihilated in the shortest possible time and show his face in front of his eldest brother Li Cheng. When the annual meeting is held at the end of the year, I will have the capital to boast. Brother Kong, don't worry, even the dogs won't leave a single one for them. Don't worry, Brother Kong. We will definitely resolve the battle cleanly this time. There will definitely be no survivors left. John Kong was very happy when he saw the morale was so high. Okay, everyone, be careful. The convoy soon arrived at the Flynn family's station. After last night's battle, the Flynn family reorganized and sent some people to take over the territory of the Negro League. There are not many people at the headquarters. Some people are smoking in twos and threes. Hey, I was really excited yesterday. With just a few crooks from the Negro League, it's just crazy to think of breaking through the inner wall. Everyone in the Flynn family knows that the inner wall is made entirely in accordance with wartime standards. It is made of military-type reinforced concrete and cannot be broken through with light weapons. Hey, did you hear? Master Venus is missing. Huh, you don't know where you went to fool around, right? If he returns the heir like this, if the Flynn family really hands it over to him, it will be all over. Even if he doesn't come when the family is in crisis, he seems to be greedy for life and afraid of death. Stop talking, look what that is, a member of the Flynn family pointed at the business convoy. If there is any situation, report it immediately. Someone realized something was wrong and quickly picked up the walkie-talkie to report the situation to his superiors. They were all frightened by such a long convoy. After the balding housekeeper heard the news, he quickly ran out to check. The leading car of the business car slowly stopped, and the cars behind opened their doors at the same time, and fully armed New World members jumped out from above. The balding butler only glanced at it and was shocked when he saw the badge on the car. He asked the rest of the Flynn family to resist and went to report first. The members of the New World did not wait for him and launched an attack directly on the Flynn family's station, causing loud gunfire. Different from last night, the New World's attack was obviously more structured, marching in a 3-3 system, with a demolition team behind it, specifically to deal with the Flynn family's solid alloy gates and walls. For a moment, the members of the Flynn family who were suppressed by automatic rifle fire could not raise their heads. Although the members of the Flynn family were scared, they still managed to stretch out the barrel of the gun and shoot. They would never dare to show their heads. At this time, the bald butler had already rushed to old Flynn. "Mr. Flynn, quickly escape with me through the secret passage. People outside are coming to kill you." Old Flynn also heard the gunfire, and before he could speak, there was an explosion outside. His face turned pale. Who is it?" The balding butler looked in a daze. "Mr. Flynn, I saw the badge representing the New World Hotel on the car." Old Flynn was stunned. "New World?" The balding butler nodded affirmatively. He believed that he was right, and the epaulets on those comparable to members of the special forces could prove it. "How could it be?" "Just burned a car," old Flynn murmured. "Mr. Flynn, leave quickly, it's too late if you don't leave. It's not like the New World Hotel has never done something like this. Gotham's big hair gang was wiped out because of a dog." The bald butler said anxiously. He knew that the Flynn family members outside could not hold out for too long. "Okay, let's go." Old Flynn put on his pajamas and followed the bald butler towards the secret passage. Hearing the gunshots and screams outside, he knew that the Flynn family he had worked so hard to build was over. Seeing the expression on old Flynn's face, the bald butler comforted him. "Mr. Flynn, there is a green mountain, and there is no fear of running out of firewood. When Mr. Carter arrives, they will pay the price." Hearing this, old Flynn nodded. "When his brother Carter arrives, even the New World will have to pay the price. Let's go." The bald butler lifted the disguised iron door next to the fireplace, let old Flynn get in first, and then he followed in. Just a few minutes after the two entered the tunnel, the New World completely attacked the Flynn family's residence and started a new round of elimination. "Brother Kong, we didn't find old Flynn, the leader of the Flynn family." The subordinate came to John Kong with an ugly face. John Kong also frowned after hearing this. If old Flynn couldn't find it, it meant that the mission was not completed completely. Find it? Dig 3 feet deep to find it? At this time, old Flynn had come a few hundred meters away along the tunnel. Hearing the gunshots getting farther and farther away, he temporarily put his mind at ease. This passage leads directly to a remote alley in Miwa district. As long as he goes there, he will be safe. What he didn't know was that there were a few yellow-haired young men smoking marijuana in the alley at this time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wan Qing Buletin Liang. Chapter 649. Bang. The sewer manhole cover connecting the secret passage was suddenly lifted and hit the ground heavily. It shocked the few gangsters who were getting high from smoking. Seeing the old Flynn and the bald butler crawling out of the secret passage in embarrassment, several young people looked at each other. The bald butler supported old Flynn and continued to escape. They had to leave here in the shortest possible time. Among them, the leading gangster had a gleam in his eyes. He saw that the watch worn by old Flynn was worth a lot of money, and he started to think wrongly. Looking at each other, his accomplices instantly understood what he was thinking, and stood in front of the two of them with a smile. The bald butler frowned. Now was the time to escape. He couldn't guarantee that the New World members wouldn't discover the secret passage. So he took old Flynn and tried to get around the gangsters, but how could these shameless dogs wandering the streets let them go so easily? Huh? Where are you going? This is my territory. I want to get some money for traveling from here. Crack. The switchblades in the gangsters' hands popped out instantly, and they looked at the two people with smiles on their faces. Old Flynn raised his eyes and looked at these gangsters with disdain. Normally, these people would not be able to see him at all. Unexpectedly, a tiger would be bullied by a dog when it was in Pyongyang, and a dragon would be teased by a shrimp when it was swimming in shallow water. The balding butler knew that now was not the time to be troubled, so he took out his wallet from his arms, took out all the cash in it and handed it over. When the gangsters saw the money, they all smiled. Only the gangster in the lead looked a little unhappy. He had seen this bald man from a distance. He didn't see clearly when the two of them came out of the secret passage just now, their faces were covered in dust. Now that he could see clearly, he felt a little scared. Although he didn't know the identity of the other party, he was certain that he was definitely from the Flynn family. Seeing the two people walking away from each other, the leading gangster directly cursed, "Stop humming dividing the money, those two people are from the Flynn family. Kill them quickly, or we will be the ones who die later." The others were stunned for a moment, and then their expressions changed drastically. The Flynn family was a giant in this area. If they came back to trouble them, it would be difficult for them to die. Grass. A group of people took out knives and rushed forward. The balding butler was very alert. When he heard the footsteps behind him, he felt something was wrong. He quickly pulled old Flynn and ran to the street. At least when they got to the street, these gangsters couldn't kill them blatantly. The idea was good, but he and old Flynn were so different in age, and their legs and feet were not in good shape. Within a few steps, he was caught up by a few gangsters. Perhaps the gangsters were overly excited, and the adrenaline in their bodies began to surge. Without waiting for the bald butler to speak, they stabbed the two of them one after another. In an instant, the two of them were stabbed and fell to the ground. At this time, old Flynn could still speak. "Hold on, we are members of the Flynn family. You are just robbing. I will give you everything I have. Please let us go." Unexpectedly, as soon as these words came out, the gangsters' eyes became even redder. They knew that only if these two people died here quietly could they be safe. There are no cameras in this alley. If they go out to hide during this period, it is impossible for others to know that they have killed the Flynn family. Baba. The whole alley was filled with the sound of knives going into flesh. "Brother, they are all dead," the gangsters gasped and looked at the two corpses on the ground. "Hurry and get them to the sewer." The leading gangster pointed to the still open sewer and took off old Flynn's watch. Several people groaned, threw the body in, and hurriedly ran out of the alley. The New World members who were searching on the other side finally discovered the secret passage. John Kong led people directly to search, vowing to catch old Flynn. Finally, at the end of the tunnel, he saw the corpses of the two people. The upper bodies of the corpses were covered in blood, and they looked like they had just died. "Brother Kong, what's going on?" John Kong rolled his eyes. I don't know what happened. The mission is completed and I left. No matter what, the result is good, but what difference does it make if you kill yourself? John Kong took the people back to the hotel directly. As for the bodies of the Flynn family members, they were naturally handled by scavengers. Brother, the matter is done. The Flynn family is wiped out. John Kong came to Li Qing to express his merit. Li Qing nodded appreciatively, that's right. I can see that you haven't fallen behind in your daily training. There may be some objective reasons that cause the Flynn family's residence to be empty. But it is rare to eliminate the Flynn family in such a short period of time. Hearing the compliment from his eldest brother, John Kong rubbed his head and smiled innocently. Now he could finally brag about it at the annual meeting. It looked like Winston was still arrogant this time. The sudden attack on the Flynn family in the New World quickly spread throughout Sin City, causing major organizations to become a little alarmed. Several well-connected organizational leaders gathered together. How did the Flynn family offend the New World? The leader of the underground ghosts frowned and asked in confusion while smoking a cigarette. Well, I really don't know. New World moved too fast. It only took 2 hours to destroy the Flynn family, the patriarch of the Duquesne family said with a solemn expression. The Duquesne family was equally powerful as the Flynn family, and he had been thinking about how long they could last if the New World attacked the Duquesne family. How about we form an alliance? If the New World attacks us next, we can still have some resistance together. The Duquesne family patriarch suggested. The patriarch of the Wade family glanced at him and said, why should we form an alliance? I think it is impossible for the New World to expand. The Flynn family must have accidentally offended the New World. He had guessed all of Duquesne's little thoughts, and he didn't want to be the cannon fodder in front of him. Besides, the Wade family also had some friendship with the New World Hotel. There is no need to unite to resist the New World in order to protect themselves. If unnecessary misunderstandings are caused, they are unlikely to be the opponents of the New World. Let's do this. I'll ask about the reason first. Let's make a decision after we hear the news. The patriarch of the Wade family thought for a while. The others nodded thoughtfully, and that was all they had to do now. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. After Carter received the news that his son was missing, he rushed to Chicago non-stop. Unexpectedly, he heard the tragic news that the Flynn family had been wiped out as soon as he arrived in Chicago. New World Li Sin. Carter clenched his fists tightly and shouted Li Qing's name viciously. He didn't expect that New World would move so fast. Only 4 hours had passed. He drove towards the Chicago Furbelie branch. Director Furbelie of the Chicago branch was his direct descendant arranged before his retirement. His son's life and death are still uncertain, so he must go to the New World Hotel. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 650. Chicago, Furbelie Division. Boss, are you sure you want to attack the New World Hotel? Lewis stood up and walked to Carter. Carter nodded without saying a word. The time had come. Even if he didn't take action, I'm afraid Li Qing in the New World wouldn't let him go. It would be better to find out the whereabouts of his son while he still has the ability. Lewis took a deep breath. Boss, you don't know who is standing behind New World, do you? As long as the military takes action, I dare not listen. Carter also noticed the hesitation in Lewis's words. Lewis, do you remember what you said back then? Lewis' words of loyalty to him back then are still fresh in his mind now. Hearing this, a trace of struggle flashed in Lewis's eyes, and he gritted his teeth. Okay, just make your decision. Carter was kind to him, and this kindness made him unable to say no. Although he would definitely be punished after knowing this, he had to do this. After saying that, Lewis went out directly to make arrangements. After all, he was going to the New World Hotel to cause trouble. Ordinary Furbelie might not have the courage, so he had to summon his direct descendants. Carter looked at Lewis's back with some emotion. After all, he was the former vice president. If Lewis refused, there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, Lewis repaid his kindness, and he promoted him not in vain. After a while, Lewis walked in. "Boss, I have made arrangements. This time we will search the New World Hotel on the grounds of tracking down the suspect." Now that he had decided to help Carter, Lewis did not hesitate to find an excuse that was not a reason and entered the New World Hotel. In fact, everyone knows that 9 out of 10 customers who enter New World will have problems. Carter nodded, stood up and patted Lewis on the shoulder. "This time, thank you, Lewis." Lewis smiled and said nothing. Taking such a big risk this time was equivalent to returning Carter's previous favor. The two quickly took Agent Furbley to the New World Hotel. The employees of New World Hotel have been very enthusiastic about their work recently. Everyone knows that the big boss is staying in the hotel, so they are all working hard, for fear of doing something wrong. Charlie is a beautiful native born and raised in China. After being screened through many layers, he became an employee of New World Hotel. He stood out from the selection process and became a concierge at the New World Hotel in Chicago. Only after becoming a concierge did he realize that the New World was so powerful and the internal competition was fierce. As a concierge, his annual salary has reached hundreds of thousands of dollars, so he cherishes this hard-won job. The door of the New World Hotel suddenly opened and a group of people walked in. Charlie adjusted his glasses on his nose, and he could tell at a glance that these people were not here to check in. "Hello, we are Chicago for Bowl. Now I suspect that a criminal has checked into the hotel. I need your cooperation." Lewis took out his work ID and said loudly. At this time, everyone in the hall was stunned. Whether it was guests or staff, it was the first time that someone dared to search the New World Hotel. Charlie was not intimidated by Lewis's momentum, he just showed a professional fake smile. "Sorry sir, we don't have any criminals here. If you can't produce evidence, please don't interrupt our work." "Just kidding, the entire New World Hotel is full of criminals, who knows which one Furbley is looking for." "Oh, aren't you going to cooperate?" Lewis sneered. After Lewis said this, the staff in the lobby on the first floor began to faintly move forward to surround the team of Furber. Some customers even stretched their hands to their arms and looked at them fiercely. "Team leader." The members of Fobo also saw that the situation was not good and reached out to touch their lower back. Lewis looked at Charlie and said again, "We are only looking for Brother Jem, we don't care about the others." Charlie said with a neither humble nor condescending smile, "New World Hotel has regulations. As long as those who check in are our guests, we must ensure the safety of our guests." "Just kidding, if we really let Furbley go in to find someone, the manager would be the first one to kill himself." When some guests heard this, their faces relaxed. Sometimes they were afraid that the New World Hotel could not protect them. Now it seems that the New World Hotel is still very reliable. A trace of anger flashed in Lewis's eyes, and he patted the front desk vigorously. "Can the rules of the New World Hotel be greater than the rules of the beautiful country? This is the beautiful country." "Oh, sir, I am also from the beautiful country." "You cannot represent the beautiful country." Charlie still looked aloof. Lewis couldn't bear it anymore and took out a gun from behind and put it against Charlie's forehead. "I can't, but it can." "Sir, are you sure you want to do this?" Although Charlie was scared, he still looked firmly at the dark muzzle of the gun. Shua. At the same time, all the staff in the hall took out their guns and pointed them directly at Lewis and his men. In an instant, more than a dozen guns were pointed at them, which made the agents of Furbley very nervous, and they immediately took out their guns and started a confrontation. The atmosphere in the entire hall became extremely solemn, and everyone nervously held the gun in their hands. Lewis didn't know what to do now. He didn't expect the New World Hotel to be so tough and not make friends with them even at the risk of a shootout with them. At this time, Carter, who was in the middle of Fubo Le, sighed, knowing that if he didn't come forward, a gunfight would really happen. So he pushed aside the Faberla who was protecting him and walked forward slowly. "Is Li Qing here? I want to meet him." Carter walked forward and said to Charlie. Charlie looked at Carter with a smile. "Please wait a moment." Charlie quickly called the manager John Kong. "Manager, someone is looking for the big boss." John Kong was stunned when he heard the voice. "Tell him to get out, my big brother can be seen by anyone." John Kong's voice was very loud, and Carter and Lewis heard it through the microphone. Especially Carter, who was almost angry to death by John Kong's words. He was a person of status after all, but he didn't expect that it would be so difficult to even meet Li Qing now. Charlie looked up at Carter, saying that he was powerless and was about to hang up the phone. "Tell him, I'm Carter, I want to meet Li Qing." Carter's face was gloomy. Charlie had no choice but to pass on the message. "Our manager said that you should wait a moment." "Yes." Carter waved his hand and asked Lewis to put down the gun in his hand. Seeing the leader put down the gun, the other Faberlas also put down their guns. John Kong did not dare to delay and reported the matter directly to his elder brother Li Qing. "Haha, Carter is much faster than I thought," Li Qing said with a smile. He knew Carter would come, and he also thought that he would use Faberla to test the bottom line of the New World Hotel. "Since you are here, let's meet. Crow, go and pick up your cheap father-in-law."